Welcome to Total Money. I forgot who we were now. Welcome to Total Money Management. I was going to say welcome to Signals and Noise, but that'd just be the wine.
Same thing, mate. Same thing.
Terrible twosome today.
Only the two of us.
Where's the third leg?
Right. We'll give away a free book to the people who can get this answer. Tom's not here because A, one of his children are ill and he's had to stay and look after them. B, he has a work event where he's working late. Or C, he's at a steak cooking night.
Steak cooking.
Whoever gets it right gets a free book.
And $50,000 bar tab. Wonder what it is.
Oh, my God. Drum roll. Anyway, Tom, we know you're here in spirit. And as perfect timing, my kids are writing to me when I'm on the podcast.
Well, it wouldn't be a podcast without it. Well, we're doing it on a bit of a weird day today because it's Thursday and we usually do it on a Friday.
Yeah, we are. We're here early. Anyway, let's get stuck into it.
We're talking about the NASDAQ. And look, for, who was it? Chris Hall, who bought a put option on the NASDAQ.
Yes, Chris is dabbling in options and doing quite well. But yes, I've noticed this week, I wrote to you guys on Wednesday, I think, and said, Bitcoin's below 100, gold's below 4,000, oil's below 60. So
I'll just fact check you on Bitcoin.
Biddy's about 103.
Yeah, it climbed.
Now it's climbed up. But point being, I think there's a couple of things that we need to keep in mind in the short term. One is I think the American economy is looking a bit shaky. The other one, even probably in the shorter term, is the Supreme Court are going to hand down a decision about whether Trump is allowed to impose tariffs, right, without Congress.
That's a big one.
Right, and that's a big one.
When do we think that we're going to get an answer?
Well, they've given their indication, I think, today, or it will be today American time. So it's Thursday here, right? It's Wednesday there. So tomorrow our time. I was thinking they'd probably go, yeah, all right, we'll allow it. But some of the preliminary stuff came out, which sort of said they were sort of saying, it's a bit of a stretch.
I wondered what side of the bench they sit on, because if they're
most of them are conservatives, right? And I think 2 or 3 were appointed by Trump. But you see, you can't remove them. So once they appoint you, it's a bit like, oh well, you can criticise me all you like, but I'm sticking with the law. So. Yeah. Trump works on that idea of the mafia, like I've said. It's all about loyalty, and he's the boss. So even if you think he's wrong, it doesn't matter. You stick with him and you do what he says.
Well, you can see the market a couple of days ago, it's trying to price it in, but we don't know.
I don't know whether it's going to be great because the market will go, cool, we're all going back to free trade, which I don't think is going to happen anyway. Trump does have other avenues to pursue to put tariffs on. Or the market could completely freak out and go, oh my God, it's all going to be chaotic and messy for another 12 months and the market crashes.
Yeah. Well,
or,
we've got another 3 years of him or more if he gets his own way.
I know. But even you think when he finishes, he's going to be what, 82? Something like that? 82, 83? I mean, Jesus, that's old.
He's not a young fella.
That's old.
But so the NASDAQ lost 82%, erasing its previous gains around 1996.
Back to 96, yeah. And it's just, I'm trying to highlight to people when the market is high, like it is now, right? The Cape is like 40 or 41, right? The difference doesn't matter. What I'm trying to highlight to people is everybody comes up with a reason why Cape is no longer valid, right? And I saw this last time, right? And what I'm trying to point out to people is this is part of the bull market where you say those old things don't work, right? Warren Buffett, he's underperforming, right? You get these things rolled out.
It's almost laughable though.
Well, yeah, but it is, Jacob. But you've got to remember there's a lot of people who haven't been investing for a long time, and so they've only invested since 09 or 10 or even 2015, right? They've only bought NASDAQ stocks. They've only bought Tesla, and they've made lots of money. And as you know, we were sitting outside and talking. When you make a lot of money, you tend not to question too much. Right, because hey, why would you? Who wants to go looking for disconfirming evidence when you're making 30 or 40% in a month, right?
Well, you literally commented 3 hours ago in the Facebook group to someone about CAPE.
Yeah. And that's what I'm saying. What happens is the higher CAPE goes, the more you hear people saying, "Oh, it's broken and it doesn't work." But what I keep coming back to is, you see, and we do this every time. Oh, it's new technology. Well, okay. Well, railways were new technology, and so were aeroplanes. What I'm getting, my point I'm trying to drive home is, don't believe people when they say there's a new foundation. Right? There's nothing new under the sun. The economics are easy. It's profits and it's wages. Right? Now, it can be AI. It can be railways, it can be iron ore, but it's all about how much does this company keep and give to shareholders, and how much do they pay staff and suppliers, right? So what I'm saying is, with AI, it can wipe out 20% of jobs. Okay, what does that mean? Oh, it's a revolution. No, it doesn't. It just means that companies are making more money and labor's making less money.
Yeah,
it's still you boil it down to those simple factors. And what you get to understand is, it's not about technology. Tulips weren't technology, right? We've got property booms and bubbles. Well, that's not technology.
We've had gold rushes and everything.
Absolutely. So you've got to look past those arguments, because, as I say, the CAPE got to 44 in 2000. In Japan, it got to 100, right? In Australia in 2007, it was 31. Right. So, and you get all this like, oh, it's because of this, it's because of that. No, it's just a typical market cycle, if you understand market history.
Yeah.
Right. And that's why we teach those charts in market cycles and say, look at the charts. Right. Well, this is not the first rodeo.
There are people relating it back to the dot-com bubble, but more relating it back to the 70s or the 68.
Oh, yeah.
Where it was a little bit more of a dragged out deflation.
Yeah. That was a result of the Nifty 50.
Yeah.
Yes,
because I'll go a little bit deeper. The argument is that these AI companies, and we can argue the toss over it, are making money compared to the .com companies that were like pets.com, that had nothing. It was just a website.
Yeah, well, that's bullshit.
Yeah, well, a lot of it is.
Because OpenAI is, if you look at the economics of AI, now I'm not talking about the economics of Google or Amazon or Microsoft. I'm talking about the economics of AI, right, alone.
Yeah.
Right? Amazon makes its most money out of Amazon Web Services. Well, it doesn't make a shitload out of selling furniture and books, right? But my point being, with AI, they're talking about $1 trillion worth of investment, right? Well, AI makes something like $13 billion, which is a bit questionable in revenue, right? And that's why I'm saying, when you look at the economics of it, the economics of data centers, how much depreciation is required, these things have got to make absolute bucket loads of money. Now, just today being Thursday, Sam Altman and OpenAI, well, the CFO actually, the Chief Financial Officer, has come out and said, the government should back them, right, for the data centers. Well, hang on, if you blokes are going to make shitloads of money, what do you need the government to back you for? Yeah. See, and this is what I'm saying. There's about 400 billion of equity or of money that you could put into data centers. They're talking about needing trillions. So the question is, okay, that's cool. Who's going to pay for all this shit?
Yeah, taxpayers are copping it.
Well, and this is what happens, right? They all get outraged that Mandami has been elected in New York, right? A socialist mayor.
Yeah.
But then they go to Donald Trump and go, listen, we need you to back us for $1 trillion. It's like, sorry, you guys are supposed to be capitalists, right? That's about taking a risk, yet you want socialism, right? Elon Musk lives off tax credits, right? And yet he's in there saying that public service is terrible. I mean, I'm not kidding, mate. These guys, honestly, they're just full of shit, right? And
well,
that's
they're painting the picture for themselves.
Well, of course. They, this is what I'm saying. If this AI thing is so great, now the problem is there's more and more studies coming through with companies saying, sorry, we don't get it, right? And it's not making money for us. But they're using the cover of AI to sack staff. Right, but AI, that's just bullshit, right? They just want to sack staff. So what they do is they say, hey, we've got this really great AI. But the more you look at AI, the more you look at it and see that the hype doesn't match the reality. I'm not saying we're not going to have artificial intelligence, but what I'm saying is it's probably, according to most serious experts, it's probably at least 10 to 20 years away.
From being something that's
artificial general intelligence, right? I think what we'll get is you'll get packages of AI for lawyers, right? For doctors, for finance. But even then they've said it costs a heap of money, right? And even then it's an additive or an adjunct to people. It doesn't replace people. What it does is it helps people.
Well, it creates more jobs to keep checking on the AI.
And then there'll be AI officers, right? There'll be people responsible with keeping the model updated, right? Just like the internet and web services and all that sort of stuff. Yeah. But my main point is, look, be careful of the hype, right? And there's no one better at hype than the Americans, right?
Well, Howard Marks, I think he brought another video out a couple of weeks ago, or a week ago or so. And he doesn't quite think it's over yet, and and that we might have another year or two. Yeah,
look, he could be right. He could be right. I'm concerned about next year, but as I think I said last week, look, let's say I'm out by a year.
Yeah.
Right? And people come back next year and they go, ha, Steve, it didn't happen. Okay, well, when the NASDAQ crashed 82%, you lost all of the profit you made from 1996, right? So in other words, I can be wrong by 12 months, but if you end up losing 50% in 3 years, not 2, well, okay.
And we're not actually trying to pick the top. We're saying, hey, just can you be careful because the next 10 years could be shaky.
Yeah. Well, I think, I can't remember, I don't know if it was this week's blog, but I was writing, actually it may not be, but what I'm saying to people is I've written something about saying you don't need to pick the top. It's completely irrelevant to pick the top.
Yeah.
Right?
Or the bottom.
Well, absolutely. And I wrote this and said, the Australian stock market bottomed in March 2009. I put a lot of money in April, right? Oh, Jesus, Steve, you missed the bottom, right? Now, sorry, I bought Commonwealth Bank at like $22 or something. Yeah. Oh man, you could have bought it at 21. It's
let's actually, what prompted you to get in April and not in May and not in February?
Just looking at valuations. Just simply looking at valuations, but also too, and here's a really important point, right? These are the things that can help you in understanding market cycles, right? I can't remember the guy's name, but he was a technical analyst, right? And he said, Chris somebody. Anyway, Australian guy, and he said the Australian economy, the Australian stock market has never fallen longer than 18 months. He said 6 quarters, right, which is 18 months. And I'm not even sure I'm getting that right. But my point being, I looked at it and went, we're in the last quarter, right? And because it had fallen through 08 and the first 3 months of 09, right? So that made it 5 quarters, right? And everything was really cheap. And I just remember thinking, oh, well, okay, I'll buy some.
Well, you're looking at the odds and going, oh, the odds are going down another quarter.
Yeah. Okay, if it falls another 2 quarters, it's got to break the record.
Yeah.
Now, that's entirely possible. like I'm saying, the Cape's at 41. Look, it could go to 45, could go to 50, right? Could go to 60. But the point being, that doesn't mean anything. It's basically, where did you start and where did you finish?
Yeah.
Right? And if I sell out now, or I've got a conservative allocation now at 40, I look stupid, right? Like Warren Buffett. Silly toad, you're underperforming. In 12 months, you go, oh, man, I should have sold.
Yeah.
Right? Because the people who think like that think they can pick the top.
Well, they're thinking in too short of a time frame, and they're often people that haven't been through a full cycle.
Yes, absolutely. But but again, Jacob, my point is you don't have to pick the top. The S&P dividend yield at the moment is 1.3. That's the lowest it's been since, guess when? 2000. Right? So what I'm saying is if I said to you, hey, Jacob, give me your money, I'll give you 1.3, you'd go, bugger that, Steve.
Yeah,
okay, well, you're not going, oh, yeah, but Steve, it's not the top. It's like, okay, well, the dividend could get down to 0.9. If you don't sell, you don't get that capital gain part, right? And this is why people say, this is what people don't realise. If the market crashes 30%, well, it's irrelevant that Steve didn't pick the top because I've still got all my money.
Yeah, and the market's got to climb 45% to break even anyway.
Well, yeah, and that's what I mean. People think, I can pick the top. It's like, okay, best of luck.
Did you see
You
Michael?
can only tell the top in hindsight.
Yeah. Did you see Michael Burry's got a massive short on Planter in the video?
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
got big balls, that bloke.
Yeah, but he's a pretty good judge.
He is. Yeah.
But, again, look, everything's so batshit crazy that's why I'm saying when you get past the euphoria of AI and you say, like we said a few weeks ago, look at the disconfirming evidence, right? Look for the stuff that says, what if it is hype? Oh, I'm going to go and, read and see if those arguments are sustainable. And they are.
Yeah.
You look at the economics and go, gee, I don't know how this works out. And as I say, lo and behold, here's OpenAI now saying, oh, we want the government to back us. It's like, that doesn't sound like
it's a bit of a red flag
well,
waving in the corner.
Yeah. I mean, hey, do you invite the government in if you're going to make lots of money? No.
No way. No.
When do you invite the government in? When you want,
or if you're anticipating a bit of a shit show.
Yeah. Well, you know what you're anticipating? Investors are saying, no, bro, I'm not giving you the money, right? Because they do the economics and go, you tell me you guys are going to be generating, OpenAI said they're going to generate, 200 billion within the next 2 years or something. It's like, oh, please. You're generating about 7 or 8 at the moment. It's not going to happen, right? And that's where you've got to be careful.
Well, adoption rates across multiple sectors need to go up hundreds of percent.
Absolutely. And they're talking about at the moment going, oh, demand's, through the roof. I know, it's free.
Yeah.
Give me free shit and, everyone will want it, right?
Speaking of free shit, subscribe to Signals and Noise.
Oh, yes. It's not free.
It will be. Well, the free version is, just not the paid version.
Oh, is it? Oh, God. Tells you how much I know. Don't listen to me, folks.
You just write the newsletters.
Yeah, right.
You've got a shout out.
Yeah. A shout out to Dean, young Dean, Evan, up there at the Bribey Island, I think he is, living the dream up there. His boy Dean, young fellow's only about 8 or 9, I think, killed it in maths competition.
Well done.
Right?
Good
so
job, Dean.
I've said to Evan the best thing you can do is tokenise the kid.
Yeah.
Right? Sell his future, private equity.
He can write as an algorithm for the
There you
3
go,
wells.
mate. There we go. We slip him a bit of equity of TMM and he can be our quant. Right, but anyway, well done, son. Well done. What about you, mate?
I've got a shout out for Connor Farris, who is my fiance's sister's husband.
So your future brother-in-law?
Yeah.
Right.
And the reason I've given a shout out is because he has listened to probably all of the podcast in about 3 weeks. So I appreciate you, mate. Well done. And he asked for a shout out, so I'll give him one.
What about Mum? How's Mum travelling? Mum all right?
All right. Now, I haven't spoke to her for a week, but
Haven't you?
she's fine. Love you, Mum. She's all right. Yeah, my sister's just got a house in the
Are they
UK.
in Scotland? England?
They're in England, yeah.
Are they?
They're in England. My sister just bought a house in England, which is
Really?
extortionate an extortionate amount of money.
Right, okay. And where's Mum? Is she retired, working?
Yeah, they're on the farm in a place called Cawthorne in Barnsley. It's just over the Pennines. Beautiful.
Moo cows and...
Moo cow, big Highland cows, moo cows.
Oh, mate, we've got to
beautiful.
go.
Yeah,
Jesus, we've got to go over.
And
We've got to go over. Peter Meek, I hope you're listening, Peter. I think he's back in England. He left on Tuesday. We can go and see him as well. We'll do a round tour.
TMM trip.
Yep, tax
We'll
deduction.
get the private jet out the garage.
Righto, what else we got? Oz economy.
Yes.
Oh, God, Jesus.
It's not doing very well still.
It's marginal. And the RBA, the inflation figures came out, which were bad. So everyone went, oh, Jesus, the RBA's not going to cut up rates. So everyone with a mortgage is, now suicidal. But they're not suicidal because the investors are back in the market.
But here's the thing with rates, right? Interest has just gone back to the normal amount that it has been for years and years. Like, it was up at 18, it's come down to 4, it's been floating around 4. We're just that used to it being 1%.
Not really. I think that the thing is, Jacob, I think people, not everyone, right, but a lot of people, buying a house is an emotional thing, right? And it's a big deal, right? You get your own place, right? You tend to want to buy a good place, right? And you tend to go over budget, right? Your budget is generally limited by what the bank will lend you, but you kind of stretch it as much as you can, right? So from that point of view, I can understand, because I've done that myself, right? You look at a place and go, oh, it's, $220, I'll pay $235, right? Because you just, you like it, you want it, you just want to get a place of your own. You
mean 2.35?
Yeah, well, you're sick of looking, right? You're sick of going to auctions and being knocked off by somebody else, right? And so you tend to sort of outbid or go as high as you can. And with the thing,
it's an ego thing as well. You go to the bank and they say, oh, you can loan $2 million, and you're like, oh,
it's a lot. Yeah, it's a lot. I'm a millionaire, right? But I think the investors are piling back into the market, and I think that's partly because of the 5% elbow deposit thing.
I think it's a few weeks ago there was 100,000 people on day one apply for that.
Yeah, I don't know how they came up with that figure, but I think there's obviously a lot of people applying. But again, I'm not worried about first home buyers in the sense of they're buying, they're probably going to stay put for a while. They're probably going to try and pay down, try and build up some equity. The thing that concerns me is investors are heavily into the market, and that's what causes a problem, because investors are generally wealthier and will outbid people, right? So that pushes the price up. And when you look at the value of investing lending as a percentage of total lending, in New South Wales, it's 43. In Northern Territory, right, close to your home, it's 44, right? So in other words, at least a quarter to a third of the loans or more are going to investors.
It's outrageous.
So, when you look at a rental yield of 2%, you have to say to yourself, well, those investors are either going to, be happy copping a really low rental yield for the rest of their lives, or they're planning on doing a quick capital gain of 100 or 200,000.
Well, Northern Territory and WA are the only two states or territories that are under a mil median at the minute.
Perth's gone bloody nuts.
Yeah, Perth is still about 900, I think. But it was at 6 not so long ago.
Yeah. Perth has gone up 50% in 5 years.
It's absolutely, but investors are looking at that map and going, "That's under a mil. I can afford that, but I can't afford Sydney."
I think I'm wrong on Perth. I think Perth has doubled in 5 years, because Brisbane now is like, the Brisbane average is like 1.1 or something. It's like, oh Jesus, please.
Yeah, there's something on our socials that caught fire about it. Well, I've got it here. 1.1, yeah. Perth 981 and Darwin 656.
Yeah. But see, my argument is, Jacob, what's going on is when the bank says, no, you can't have 800, you say to the bank, okay, how much can I have? And they say 7. And you go, okay.
I'll go to Darwin.
I'll go to Darwin, right? Or I'll go to Tassie, right? Or I'll go to Dalby or somewhere, right? Because again, you get that euphoria where people just feel like they're missing out, right? So they just sort of like, even investors are saying, or people who have bought a property, they've never really contemplated it. They've got a lot of equity, and then they think, hey, we should use the equity to buy an investment property, right? It doesn't really cost them that much. They buy a property for $1 million, right? They rent it out. It costs them, $15,000 a year net, but that's okay because it's going up by $25,000 a year, right? So they're looking at it going, this is great.
Until it doesn't.
Right? But it's been going on for a while.
All right, let's talk about the lesson of the week, and then we'll talk about Drone Shield and do the stock review.
Nyong.
What's the lesson of the week? The Schiller PE ratio. We never talked about that.
What's this new thing you call CAPE?
What's the new lesson?
Look, I just wanted to, the emphasis there is when you borrow, you're borrowing from the future, right? So what I'm trying to say is, if I say to you, okay, Jacob, I want to buy that shirt, but I don't want to, quote, save up for it, right? Yep. Dare I say, when I was a kid, we used to have lay-by, right? You'd go into the department store and you'd pay it off at $10 a week, and if the shirt was $50, you'd pay the $50 and they'd say, righto, Steve, here's the shirt, right? Well, now what you do is you say, I'm going to buy now, pay later in 4 installments, give me the shirt, right? So now you get the shirt, but you've committed the money, right? And so what's happening is the same thing happens with investments, right? The more expensive it gets, what it means is the more the future has to become, the more the future has to stay the same as the present to realise the value.
Yeah. It's forward PE.
Yes, yeah. So what it's I'm not explaining that very well. I'm just trying to give people this notion that if Nvidia is indeed worth a PE of 100, right, or Tesla, right? Tesla's I think 170 or something, right? Okay, so if everything stays the same way, the Tesla PE will fall, right? So it's got to increase the earnings. Now, what you have to do is you can project out the earnings and say, like I'm saying with AI, okay, do you think Elon will sell every car in the world? No. Oh, okay, well, it may not be a PE of 170. So what you're doing is buying it at that rate is borrowing from the future by saying it's all going to be good in the future.
Yeah.
So a CAPE of 40 is saying, look, everything's sweet for the next decade. Right, but even if that happens, you're still only going to get 2.5%.
But can you say the same thing for a very, very low CAPE or a very, very low PE, where it's let's just say
the opposite?
Yeah, where it's a PE of 5, and you go, well, that's saying that the future is going to be trash. Absolutely,
yeah, because that's what happens. So you can look at a company. Well, let me flip it. In 2008, I think it was, the PE, the CAPE ratio was at about, I think, 110 or something. And people were going, well, what the hell? Because the earnings had collapsed.
Yeah.
Right? So in that case, CAPE wasn't that useful, but there were other things like the Q ratio, right, which were useful, right? But point being, on CAPE alone, what you have to do is say, okay, well, will the earnings improve? Yes, they will. Oh, okay. Therefore, you can see a path backward, a path back.
Back to the mean.
Yes.
Yeah.
Whereas what we've got at the moment is the price is too high in relation to the earnings.
Yeah.
And what you do is say, how do the earnings catch up to the price? How long will it take? Right? And the higher the disparity, or the wider, the broader the disparity between price and earnings, means the longer it's going to take.
Or the more unlikely it will
Yes.
be.
And that's what happened to Japan. Yeah. The reason why Japan took a decade and two decades, even 3, was because the CAPE was at 100. So in other words, you had to spend 20 years working off that excess valuation, right? So you buy something at $100, it's really worth 30. Well, nobody wants to buy it at 90. Nobody wants to buy it at 80. Nobody wants to buy it at 70, 60, 50, blah, 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 until they go, okay, at 20 I'll buy it.
Yeah, now it's reasonable. And then it keeps going.
But it's taken 20 years to get to reasonable, right? Yeah. Because at 100, you're earning, like I said on the S&P, you're earning 1%. Well, I come along and go, Jacob, can you take this piece of shit off my hands? And you go, yeah, come back when that's earning 10. And I go, oh, okay, to earn 10, it has to fall from $1 to 22 cents, and it's currently at 85. Right? You've got to wait for it to get to 22 and then come back and go, Steve, now it's at 10. I go, okay, now I'll pay for it.
Yeah.
But you've lost an enormous amount of money, right? And that's what I mean. You're pulling forward the future.
Yeah. Well, speaking of forward PEs, Drone Shield has an outrageously large one. So, I want to talk about Drone Shield.
We've got a few stocks to go through.
Yeah, we've got a couple. Yeah. I'll take the mic for a bit and just talk about some analysis on Drone Shield, and then if you want to chip in with another one as well. So basically,
there's a few there.
On the podcast, on the socials, mainly in the Facebook group, there's a poll where you can drop in your stock and we'll review it. But Drone Shield's been there for weeks and weeks and weeks. So essentially, they develop counter-drone and electronic warfare systems. Demand's risen a lot over the last few years.
As expected.
As expected. We've talked about that for a while. It's not a slow established compounder. It's more of an insane growth story, which is why people are saying, what about this? Because you've probably made hundreds of % in the last 12 months or so.
I think 400% or something. So tends to attract attention.
It's insane. So let's break it down. I've got here numbers and narrative, and then we'll do a bit of a checklist thing like we usually do. So the market cap's currently, it's currently 1.1 bill roughly, and it bounces between 1.1 and kind of 1.3.
Right.
It's not small, but it's not massive.
Yeah.
Cash flow, this is a red flag for me. It's only recently profitable.
Right.
So cash flows have been very, very inconsistent. Forward earnings have relied heavily on kind of contract conversions, which are obviously unpredictable, and governments are buying a lot of Drone Shield at the minute because they know who they are.
Yep.
Which is a red flag. But if we're expecting a little bit more warfare in inverted commas over the next few years,
we are.
Then it might do okay, and they could have more contracts.
Right.
Valuation. This is what Steve was just talking about before. It's well above 500 at the minute. The PE
might be a little expensive.
It's just a tiny bit expensive. What this means is investors are pricing in years of future growth.
Yeah.
You're not buying the business as it is today.
Yeah, you're buying
it as it is in 500 years or whatever it is.
Yep.
And there's no dividend. So if we're going through our checklist going, okay, market cap's there, profit and cash flow is a bit wavy, valuation's insane, the dividend is zero. What's the competitive edge? How many other countries are doing RF detection jamming technology? Well, a few.
Yeah.
At the
and
minute.
they're probably more interested in supporting their own indigenous industry than buying Drone Shield.
That's right, yeah. So large players tend to respond to that. Or if you've got a lot of money, there's lots of mini companies popping up. And so we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of the current 5 are like a bit wavy. Sentiment, it's massively positive.
Yep.
But due to one thing, which is price.
Yep.
Price has gone from where it has been to now, which is over 400%.
Yep.
Which kind of leads into that sense of enthusiasm. So would I buy it? Here's the question.
You love junior specky miners?
I
Get
did.
into it, mate.
I love junior specs until I lost a frick load of money. It can go very right or it can go very wrong. Like, so what would I do? Small allocations. So as a percentage of portfolio, it'd be a tiny percent. I'd be rebalancing regularly. If you've been in the pot, and this is not financial advice, obviously, if you've been in the pot for a while and you've made a few 100%, probably take some off and rebalance. But more so expect a lot of volatility and reassess. I'd probably reassess quarterly or monthly. Even
Absolutely, yeah. These things tend to, when they drop, they go big.
They go bang.
20, 30% in a day.
Yeah.
if they miss an earning. We expected you to earn 10 cents and you earned 8. Right, that's it. And that's when you get. That's what I mean, particularly with small caps that have made a lot in a short space of time.
Yeah, they've got a lot of short-term contracts as well.
Yep.
And if something could happen in America and all of a sudden we're friends again, and we're not expecting it, but it could happen, and then bang, it all goes through the floor.
The other thing is too, they could get bought out.
Yes.
Right. They might get an offer from, like you just said, a US company or something that says, hey, we'll take it at a 30% premium.
Yeah.
But it's risky.
Yes.
It's high risk.
So hopefully that answered your question. What else have we got?
Okay, we got a few. Someone asked about Linus. We've talked about Linus on previous podcasts. We also talked about it at around $8. But it went up to 20, but now it's back down to about 13, I think I last checked.
Yeah.
Declare I hold Linus, but I've held Linus for 10 years or something, even longer. Anyway, point being, rare earths are going to be, I think, something like oil. But just looking at Linus, it's very volatile. I think it's a good long-term play. It doesn't make sense on the numbers, but it makes sense on the narrative. Right? So again, I'm not mortgaging the house to put into it, but again, I think it's going to be around, and it's received money from the US government. It's announced that it's going to build a heavy rare earth processing, which is absolutely critical.
Yep.
It's got a bright future, I think, because of the way that the rare earth industry is going. One thing you want to have a look out for on the rare earth stuff, as I think I said this last week, there's going to be lots of bullshit and merger talk and, we don't need rare earths anymore, all of that sort of stuff, right? Most of it ends up being rumour, but it creates a lot of volatility. So this is one where you really want to know the fundamental story and see that you got to stick it through thick and thin, right? And it's one of the, because as I say, someone bought it at $20 and they're now at 13. They're looking at it going, oh, this is bullshit, but I can say, well, okay, that's fair enough, but the story is still solid.
Yeah, where does it fit in the macro?
Yeah. Yep. Someone asked about Yan coal. Yeah, we talked about that, I think, a year, and I think it's doubled since then. It's still pretty cheap. It's got a PE of about 8 or something. The dividend's around 9. Everybody thinks coal sucks. That's a good reason to buy it alone. Coal is going to still be around for a long time. I think I said last week, fossil fuel, I think climate change is falling off the agenda. I don't know whether that's right. I think I should say climate change is now taking a backseat to economic security.
Yeah.
Right? National security. So I think if someone said, oh, we can't have that mine because it creates gases and the mine is a rare earth mine, I know who's going to win that argument.
Yeah.
Right?
They'll still have to jump through hoops, but it'll
but I think we'll look favourably, shall we say.
Yeah. And then we've got energy ETFs, which is obviously, we've talked about that being a big yes for a long time.
Yeah.
And we think, look, energy and resources are a really good place to be. We don't need to go much into it, but there are a lot of energy. There's a lot of energy ETFs, but I would say if you look at it as part of a wider portfolio, how do you rebalance into it?
Yeah. Well, I think energy, look, again, as you said, energy I think is a good long-term play. I had a look at, go and have a look at some of the energy companies. I mean, Jesus, they are cheap.
They're cheap they're dirt
BP
cheap.
came out on yesterday, Wednesday, Tuesday, and they're turning it around now because they've given that climate change. BP were beyond petroleum, not anymore. Now it's sort of like back petroleum, right? As in we're going back to the good stuff. So they've got a dividend, I think, in the London market. I think the div's about 5.5 or 6.
Yeah.
They've struggled for a while, but again, a 6% dividend is, not to be sneezed
for a
at.
massive company like that. That's never gonna go
someone was talking about, talking to someone today about Woodside, the dividend's at about 8. I mean, the PE is really cheap.
I mean, I look at Woodside and go, okay, you can look at it and go, it's underperforming, but I'm like, well, give me more then.
Well, yeah, but I'm happy to underperform while I get a 9% dividend.
Yeah, if it's cheap,
Yeah, well, you see, again, this gets back to the idea where people go, oh, it's underperforming. It's like, mate, it's paying me 9% a year. That ain't underperforming, bro.
Yeah.
So, yes, but yeah, there's lots of energy ETFs. It's best to stick with the big ones,
Well,
XLE in America,
I'm thinking about like monetary flow, and I think it's going to come out, personal opinion, it's going to come out of tech and it's going to move into energy.
Will. Yeah.
And it's my opinion is rather than trying to pick the one or two stocks that's going to do 1,000% or whatever or blow up.
Yep.
Why don't you just move that money that you've made over 20 years in tech and start looking at some energy ETFs and slowly rebalancing into that?
We talk about that in the sector approach, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And the well to stuff.
Yeah.
Okay, Rio, PE 13, dividend 4.5. That's not too bad.
Pretty good.
Pretty large, pretty diverse. The one red flag I'd be careful of there is China. I think for Australia, it's going to be choppy with China, right? Because we're not going to be their friends. We're going to be the friends of the Americans. So I don't know how much you could rely on that.
Well, it's not going anywhere, but it might be stagnant for a bit.
Yeah.
It's still well priced.
Yeah. I don't think you're going to wake up and go, oh, my God, Rio's gone broke. But nor do I think you wake up and go, oh, my God, Rio's gone up 40%. It could do. One of the ones I will say I like in that area is there's an ETF on the Australian market called QRE.
I can imagine everyone with their notebook now.
Yeah, well, QRE. Wait, Steve, I've got to get a notebook. QRE. But in all honesty, go and have a look. Look, it's a good solid ETF. You get a wide spread of companies. I think, if I remember correctly, the dividend is quite good. Now, the reason why is because everyone's been buying, banks and all that sort of stuff, which brings me to the Commonwealth Bank.
60% of CBA loans are
declare
residential property.
Declare it, right? I've held CBA for a long time. PE at 28, right? That's well above the long-term average. Look, it's too big to fail. I get all that stuff, but it still doesn't mean it can't fall back to $20 like it did, right? So I think it's going to underperform for a long time. Dividend is like 3%.
There's too many. There's 60 eggs out of 100 in one basket. That's too. It's too scary for me,
mate. It's just, I've got to say, when I read that, I thought, oh, that can't be right. But it's absolutely insane. 60% of into residential mortgages is like, oh, Jesus. But you can see why they're doing really well, right? Because residential mortgages are booming.
For sure.
But as soon as that stops, it's going to be hard to find a chair.
You can't move quick enough because they're too big. So they're going to be stuck with their eggs.
Yeah, I think they'll have a what do you call it? NPL, non-performing loans. I think you'll have quite a few. Or what they'll have to do is they'll have to manage, clients, or reduce their payments, or come to some sort of
or some massive American bank will buy them out.
Well, no, they're part of the 4 pillars policy.
I don't know what that is.
Anyway, NVIDIA.
No.
I've got my name. Okay. I've got mania is enough to keep me away. Someone said St. Barbara, which is a little mining company, a little gold, if I remember correctly. It's doubled over 12 months, which is really good. That's because the gold price has gone gangbusters. Little dividend. Really, all of those gold miners are a play on the stock price. So earnings per share, they don't have any. So it's a bit of a speculator. Look, to be quite honest, a gold ETF would
do.
I think so, yeah. In terms of risk, right? In terms of risk, any company who's got negative earnings per share really suffers when there's a market downturn. And the reason why is because the capital taps get turned off. Yeah. Right? Hey, we only need, sorry, dude. Right? And people are looking, like big institutional investors are looking
for more places to put their money in. Gold is that obvious spot.
If it's got a good, and I don't know this or not, but if it's got a good deposit or good gold deposits, then the likely outcome is if the market tanks, and they're starved of capital, that they get bought out.
Yes.
Right. BHP walks in and says, you guys need some money. We'll buy you for half the price, and or you die anyway. So take your pick. Right. The other one was Beach Petroleum, oil and gas explorer. Pays a good dividend. It's below book value. Again, as Jacob said with Drone Shield, I think if you want to have a dabble, you just have a little bit. Personally, I'm happy with Woodside. I think it's a lot safer. Pays a good dividend as well. So that I'm biased, right? But I'm biased because what I'm looking to do is protect my capital, not double it in 12 months, right? So you can do Drone Shield and St Barbara and those little ones, right? And yes, they may double, but my argument has always been, well, yeah, but if let's say you put 10 grand in it. Okay, well, you go to 20. All right, well, that's good. It's 100%, but it's still only 10 grand.
But would you have put $1 million in it?
Well, no, because it's too small.
Yeah, well, that's the point.
Yeah. That's what I mean. I can put 100 in Woodside and go, okay, I can sleep at night.
Yeah.
I can't put 100 in St Barbara and go, yeah, hey, cool.
Yeah.
Right, and I think that's the difference.
Well, looking at just the BPT one, and then we'll close up. Its market cap's about 2.8 to 3 bill. It's got a 7.2% yield.
Currently,
yeah.
Yep.
And price to book is 0.86.
Yeah, so it's below book value.
Yeah.
And that's what I mean. There might be, if, and I'm not saying we're going to have a crash, but if we do, they may struggle, and therefore companies will look at it and say, well, hang on, it's on sale because we're getting $1 for, what'd you say, 80 cents
86,
or something? 86 cents, right?
Yeah. Well, again, like all of these, just make sure that we're not putting all the eggs in the Commonwealth Bank basket.
Yeah. That's why I say, there's two ways to make money in stocks, right? You can pick stocks like we've just talked about, Drone Shield and CBA and stuff, or you can say, look, I'll just buy an ETF and I'll rebalance and asset allocate, and that's my advantage. Right? I don't need to know about every company on the ASX. All I need to do is say my edge is the way I asset allocate and rebalance. Yep. That's where I make my money, right? Rather than saying I've got to know every ounce of gold that St Barbara's got.
That's an awesome way of wrapping it up. Yeah, I think that's exactly what people fail to understand. They go, I need to pick one stock. And no. That's actually how you manage your money.
Yeah. All right. Well done for me, Tom.
Yeah. All right. Well, that was a big one. So thank you for sticking with us. And actually, leave us a review, please, because it's been a few weeks since we've had any new 5-star
And the blog.
It'd be awesome if you could do that. And we'll see you next week. Thanks, Steve.
Cheers, folks.
This podcast does not provide financial advice.